Hey, this is Mr. Masonette, and in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to solve a system of equations by using matrices. So basically how this works is we want to get into a situation where for this equation, we're eliminating this x term here and this y term. And by doing so, we will have just one variable remaining. And when that is the case, you can solve for that variable. You can solve for z. And for this equation here, we want to eliminate just the x term, because if we know what z is equal to, we could plug it into this z, leaving us with just y, and we can solve for that y. And once we know what y and z are, we can plug both of those values into y and z of this equation, leaving us with just x to solve. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So first, what we're going to do is we are going to draw a matrix. And then what we want to do is we want to take each equation and write the coefficients inside the matrix. So we're going to start with the coefficient of this x, which is just 5. This coefficient is -4. This coefficient is +2. For this equation, this coefficient is -1. The coefficient of y is -5. This coefficient is 6. And for the last equation, we have a coefficient of +1, +4, and -5. And then we have to separate these coefficients from these constants over here of 21, -24, and 21. All right, now what we want to do is we want to figure out how can we turn this value here into 0. Now, the only way you can turn one of these terms into 0 is by adding two of our equations. Now, if you take a look at the second equation and the third equation, if we add the x values, that does make 0. So what we're going to do is draw a new matrix right here. And what we're going to do is we're just going to rewrite the numbers from our first equation, which are 5, -4, 2, and 21. And we're going to write our second set of numbers, -1, -5, 6, and -24. And what we're going to do is we're going to add these two rows together to get 0 in the x position. We're going to get -1 in the y position. And we're going to get +1 in the z position. And 21 and -24 is -3. All right. Now, after you get that bottom corner turned into 0, we want to turn the number directly above it into 0. Now, remember, the process of turning a number into 0 requires that you add two of our equations together. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and write this set of numbers on the side here. We have -1, -5, 6, and -24. And next, we're going to take the numbers from our first equation and write those directly below the other set of numbers. So we have 5, -4, 2, and 21. Now, we want the x column to be 0, but as is, -1 and 5 is +4, so that is not going to work. But remember, you can take any equation you want to and multiply all of the numbers by any factor. So we're going to force the issue here. We're going to turn this -1 into the opposite of 5, which would be -5. And to do this, we have to multiply every number in that equation by 5. So 5 times -1 is -5. 5 times -5 is -25. 5 times 6 is 30. And 5 times -24 is -120. Now what we do is we take the columns and add them together. So we have 5 and -5, which is 0, and that is what we were shooting for. We have -4 and -25, which is -29. The z column is going to be 32, and the constants over here are going to be -99. Remember, we got this equation here by taking this and just rewriting it by increasing everything by a factor of 5. So we're just adding this equation to get these new numbers. So let's go ahead and insert this into our new matrix. So let's go ahead and create a new matrix here. So the first row of numbers stays the same. We have a 5, a -4, a 2, and a 21. And now we have a 0, -29, 32, and a -99 for the second row of numbers. And then we just rewrite our last set of numbers: 0, -1, 1, and -3. All right, so we have one more thing we have to accomplish, and then we can start plugging things in and solving. We have to turn this y value into 0, because remember, we just want a situation where the last row has just a z in it, the middle row has a y and a z, and the first row has an x, y, and a z. So we have a x, y, z, we have a y and a z, but here we still have a y and a z, and we want to eliminate this y. So we want to turn this y value into 0. Now at this point, it's important that we take the two set of numbers that have the zeros in the x positions and use those ones. So we're going to take the second set of numbers, which is 0, -29, 32, and -99. And we are going to combine that with 0, -1, 1, and -3. So we want to make sure that these y numbers end up being 0. And right now they're not. They have a sum of -30. So what we're going to do is we're going to rewrite -1 as the opposite of -29, which would be +29. So we have to multiply everything in this equation by whatever would turn -1 into +29, which would be -29. So -29 times 0 is, of course, 0. -29 times -1 is +29. -29 times 1 is -29. And -29 times -3 is +87. All right, now what we have to do is take this first set of numbers and add it to our new set of numbers. So we don't need this row of numbers anymore. So let's go ahead and add the x column. This will give us 0. The y column gives us 0 as well, and that is what we were aiming for. And then the z column gives us +3. And for the last column, we have -12. All right. So what we have to do now is we're going to make one last matrix here. And we're going to rewrite the first set of numbers as 5, -4, 2, 21. And now we're going to take the second set of numbers and write that, which is 0, -29, 32, and -99. And now we're going to take this new set of numbers and replace it with this set of numbers. So we have our 0 for the x, a 0 for the y. The z number is going to be 3, or I should say the coefficient of z is going to be 3. And we write -12 right here. All right, let's take our first set of numbers here and write that in the form of an equation. So 5 is the coefficient of x, -4 is the coefficient of y, 2 is the coefficient of z, and we set that equal to 21. So we're going to write 5x minus 4y plus 2z is equal to 21. Now for this column, notice we do not have any x values, so we start with the coefficient of y, which is -29y plus 32z is equal to -99. And for the last equation, we only have a z coefficient, so we write 3z is equal to -12. All right, so we're going to start, of course, by solving this last equation here because it is only a one-step equation. And the only thing we can multiply 3 by to make -12 would be -4. So out of our answers, x, y, and z, we already know that z is equal to -4. I'm not even going to show any work for that because we know that 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. All right, now that we know that z is negative 4, we're going to take our second equation here, negative 29y plus 32z equals negative 99, and we're going to substitute z with negative 4. And we know that when we have just one variable in the equation, we can solve for that variable. So let's simplify this equation a bit. We have negative 29y minus, let's see, that would be 128. Whenever multiplying by 4, you can just take the number you're multiplying it by and just double it twice. So 32 doubled is 64, and 64 doubled is 128. Let's set that equal to negative 99. Now we're going to take this minus 128 and send it to the other side. Let's write the inverse of subtraction, which is adding 128. And negative 99 and positive 128 is positive 29. And on this side, we have negative 29y. And the only thing we can multiply negative 29 by to make positive 29 would be a negative 1. So y is equal to negative 1. All right, now we know what y and z are, so let's plug both of them into our first equation and solve for x. So we have 5x minus 4 times our y value, which is negative 1, plus 2 times the z value, which we know now is negative 4, and set that equal to 21. All right, let us go ahead and simplify a bit. So we have 5x, negative 4 and negative 1 is a product of positive 4. Positive 2 and negative 4 is a product of negative 8. And set that equal to 21. Now, if we add positive 4 and negative 8, that's negative 4. And the opposite of negative 4 is positive 4. So we're going to add 4 to the other side, which gives us 25. Let's slide down this 5x. And the only thing we can multiply 5 by to make 25 would be 5. So x is equal to 5. So here's our solution to the system. X is equal to 5, y is equal to negative 1, and z is equal to negative 4. Hey, I just want to say thanks for checking out this math tutorial. Please don't forget to hit that subscription button and enable notifications so you can be informed as I upload new math tutorials to my math channel. Until next time, this is Shane Masonette with Masonette Math.